Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Dark Horse Presents number 100, 1 through 5. For the celebratory issue of number 100, Dark Horse Presents split the issue into 5 separate comics. And they really went to town with the amount of contributors. And basically at this point, we're up to the 90s. In Dark Horse's history. Last time we looked at Dark Horse Presents, it was the late 80s. They were just starting to get some little properties here and there, like getting the Flaming Carrot title over to Dark Horse and Mr. Monster. But in those intervening years, they got huge. They basically are like the third biggest comic publisher after Marvel and DC. In these intervening years, they got Hellboy, Frank Miller, and John Byrne went over. Tons of like high-profile, high-selling stuff. So now this is almost like them tooting their horn. They just want to show off, like, this is where we are now. Also, though, on top of that, I believe number 100, these 5 issues, are the first ones edited by Bob Schreck, the great editor. Bob Schreck totally revamped this title in a way. I mean, sure, if you look at these covers, yeah, typical Dark Horse Presents stuff, featuring things from Dark Horse Comics, but he added all these indie alternative cartoonists. In fact, the bulk of these are indie alternative cartoonists. Except for like the 1 or 2 genre stories per issue, these could be published by Drawn and Quarterly or Fantagraphics. And as we shall see, there's a lot of big names from the mainstream world and from the indie alternative world. So this is when Dark Horse Presents gets really good. At least for I think 20, 30 issues. And then I think Bob Schreck leaves. So I have a bunch of those. After that, I kind of stopped buying them. So for the next few weeks, we'll be looking at, we'll be going straight up from number 100. Number 1, we'll call this... this is the first one. Beautiful Frank Miller cover. This is at the height of his Sin City fame when he was pretty much just starting out with Sin City, blowing everyone away. Beautiful colors by Lynn Varley, of course, at the time his partner. And just all-around snazzy cover. Nice, well-designed contents page. I like this graphic design. Very simple and nice. And here's that... character we saw on the cover, Lance Blastoff, and this is written and drawn by Frank Miller. And this is like a weird character. I think there was one comic of his, but there's like a handful of stories, and this is like Lance Blastoff is almost like Frank Miller trying to piss off or like kind of mock and satirize PC type people. And he's this total macho space adventurer. He's like Flash Gordon on too much steroids. So now we cut away. We see this tour guide on a dinosaur planet. And she's showing people the splendors and wonders of nature. And she's talking like a real, tree hugger. She's like, look at this nature untainted and spoiled by war or pollution or strip malls. Unsullied by fast food restaurants. And, but right then a giant dinosaur knocks the ship out of the air, this kind of flying car. Eats everyone else in the car and is about to eat her. God, that was great to me, that dinosaur. And then Lance Blastoff shows up and rescues her. Well, just starts to. Man, I love this Frank Miller art. It's the Sin City era with the chiaroscuro, the blacks and heavy blacks and stuff. It looks really good. So Lance Blastoff kills the dinosaur, and the woman's all like, "Oh, you killed that poor creature, you fiend!" And he's basically like, wait till you get a good, strong whiff of fresh-cooked Dino. And she's like, "Never, I could never." And she smells it, and I guess it smells really good. And then the next panel, we see her chomping on this giant drumstick. And she says, "Oh, Lance, all I ever needed is real meat. And a real man." And Lance Blastoff looks to the reader and says, "Remember, kids, eat meat and lots of it." This is pretty funny. But I'm pretty sure Frank Miller is still satirizing also Lance Blastoff. He also recognizes, it's so over the top. I know he's had some definitely problematic politics, definitely after this story, years after. But I really think in this one, he still is like kind of in the middle, taking pot shots at both sides. Next, we have The Heartbreakers, written by Anina Bennett and drawn by Paul Guinan. And this was a series that was always coming in and out of Dark Horse Presents. I don't think I ever read a whole story. Well, I guess I did, but I can't remember any of them. It's like well done, I guess. Paul Guinan draws pretty nicely. It's, in a mainstream style. He's not bad. And I don't think Anita Bennett's a bad writer necessarily, but these comics just bore me. It's basically a science fiction tale. In the future, this scientist cloned herself, and they're the Heartbreakers. They're all different because some are scientists, some are warriors, and this one, Queenie, she's in all of them, I think, with the cool haircut. That's Queenie, and she's like the kick-ass enforcer of the group, So this is just like kind of one chapter in this whole Heartbreakers saga. So that's why I'm not really getting into the plot. As you can see, lots of sci-fi hijinks, and I don't know. These just never did anything for me. I guess, to be honest, I really don't like Paul Guinan's art. He seems facile at like drawing like cool spaceships and cars, but this face doesn't. Not big a fan of some of these faces. But it looks good. It kind of looks like Bob Fingerman. Less cartoony, though. And then, so here we get into the Bob Shrek stuff. Peeling and Eating a Tangerine and Disposing of the Seeds, written by Harvey Pekar and drawn by Joe Sacco. And this is when Joe Sacco, before he was like kind of a star. Palestine was just coming out in single issue form at this time. This is one of those Harvey Pekar ones where I just think, okay, you're getting a little too mundane. Like American Splendor, I like a lot of that stuff. I especially appreciate its, historical value as far as being the first comic that was like, hey, comics can just do this too. Just revealing the everyday moments of life, things that comics would never do before that. And sometimes, though, I'm like, okay, Harvey, I don't really care. This when he's at work, he's spitting these or throwing these tangerine seeds in this guy's garbage pail. The guy obviously is peeved, slides the pail over passively aggressively, and Harvey walks off, and the guy grabs his pail back. So there you go. Oh, this is so nice. The Ninth Gland by the twisted, bizarro Renee French. Her stuff is so disturbing. And this is the first chapter of The Ninth Gland. It'll continue past this 100th issue. God, her stuff always is just... I don't know what she's tapped into, what kind of David Lynch-like universe. She's just so disturbing. So we see this, these like oral surgeons working on this person's mouth. They drop a bridge, a dental bridge. It falls off the surgical table and falls into this grill. The nurse says, "We've lost a doctor." Now, meanwhile, we see this little girl, and she's kind of just hanging out with this old lady. I don't even know their relation, but she's doing her makeup. She's just it seems like a nice little girl. And then her name's Pearl, by the way. So her friend shows up and says, "Come on, Pearl, we gotta go." So this other little girl, they go into a supply room closet, and she says, "I got the stuff. It's in this pouch." And it's like a dropper, and apparently it's some kind of hallucinogen. These girls look like they're 9, and they're already experimenting with drugs. So as you can see, just the way she draws is so creepy. Everyone's eyes look like they got, almost like those zombie eyes from old zombie movies, pre-Romero movies. They're just all sallow and gaunt and sunken eye sockets. So Pearl says, "Okay, you go first, and then I'll watch to make sure nothing bad happens." So she puts a little on her finger, and now we see this other girl's point of view of Pearl. And look at this. I know the word Lynchian is thrown around a lot, but this reminds me so much of that little baby in Eraserhead. So disturbing, and So this girl's obviously tripping out. This is how she's seeing reality. And Pearl is saying, talk to me, say something. Are you okay? Of course she's not. We know she's not okay because this is what she's seeing. These horrifying images. This shouldn't even be horrifying. It looks like this cute little critter. But just the fact that she's warped into this weird lumping object. And then that cute little critter opens its mouth. And now we finally see her face. That's what she looks like. As you can imagine, she's fucking terrified. And Pearl says, I'm going to go ask for help. And another horrifying image. Next, we have Aboard the Drinking Leviathan by John Lewis of True Swamp fame. John Lewis is an interesting cartoonist. He really isn't a good artist. Even people who love his comic, most people would admit, yeah, that guy doesn't draw very well. But he's a great writer. And he has this weird, almost all of his stories take place in like a swamp. And it's all about these critters. These anthropomorphized critters who, think and talk and feel, but they're still connected to nature. It's almost like that mad parody of Pogo, where he's like, what if Pogo were real animals? And, Albert's going around eating everyone because he's an alligator, even though he's got his goofy personality. And that's what these kind of remind me of. So we see this guy, I don't know if he's a hedgehog maybe, and his name's Hale. And he's calling across the road. He's saying, Hoost. I think that's how you pronounce it. Hoost, come here. It's his turtle. So the turtle slowly makes it across the road. And Hale says, I can smell the milkweed on your breath. So apparently in this world, milkweed is an alcoholic like beverage that fucks you up. Maybe that's a real thing from nature. I think John Lewis studies like science and stuff and botany and biology. I kind of trust him because from what I've read, he does use like real things from nature to make his stories, to find story material. So the turtle tells Hale, he tells him about the time he once woke up in a crocodigator's nest. Obviously a crocodigator is like some kind of either crocodile or alligator. And I guess he was really drunk on milkweed one night and he woke up in the nest. And as soon as he woke up, all the crocodigator eggs were hatching. So of course he's freaking out. And then the mama crocodigator showed up. And the turtle was paralyzed. And then the mama crocodigator scooped him up in her mouth with all the other little babies. And the turtle was obviously terrified. And then he realized, no, she's just holding us. She's not eating us. And she deposits them in the water. And it's so interesting how this turtle almost has this fondness for this. Maybe he didn't have a good a mom who took care of him. Apparently, crocodigators are one of the only reptiles who actually look after their young after they're born. And he admits that sometimes when he's been blacked out on milkweed, his friends have to stop him from heading towards that nest. He wants to go back there because maybe that was the only time he felt motherly love. So it's really kind of beautiful, touching little story, even though it's drawn like, oh my God, just so rudimentarily. Now we have Milk and Cheese by Evan Dorkin. This is The Devil Made Them Do It. And I really like Milk and Cheese. It's got a dopey humor, but I think he's clever as fuck, Evan Dorkin. Every panel is packed with like 16 jokes and wordplay and puns and funny references, cultural references. I also love his art, how just detailed he is. He puts, as you can see, he puts the work in. And I know they're crowded, lots of word balloons, but I still love reading his comics. He packs so much fun stuff into one page. It's really nice. So in this episode, Milk and Cheese are saying, maybe we're possessed by the devil. That's why we do all these horrible things. And then the other one just says, fuck that. Nobody controls us. We're just that bad anyway. We don't need the devil to make us do anything. And once again, they go on this rampage and start hurting people and killing people. And the whole time they're saying goofy, funny things. The devil is making us do it. He's making us overdo it. And he's singing Burn Baby Burn Disco Inferno. They're in a baby carriage, and one of them is saying, I'm Linda Blair, I'm Rosemary's Baby. And now their need for violence is sated, and they proclaim that we are hell on earth. They don't need Satan. We have a little editorial from Bob Schreck, and this is kind of nice. All the contributors of these 5 issues, they tell us what they're working on. So I wish more anthologies did this. So you could, if you like one of these artists, you can say, oh, I'm going to pick up this comic, I'm going to get more of it. So now we have a Dave Stevens pinup, which I imagine was going to be a character, Mimi Rodin. Kind of has this backstory. She lives in Paris. She's a psychic advisor. Beautiful Dave Stevens girl, good girl art. Really nice. And then we get her on the back cover. So I think Dave Stevens wasn't long for the world at this point. I don't think he lived much past the mid-90s. So that might be the last thing I owned by Dave Stevens. Number 2, beautiful cover of Hellboy by Bernie Wrightson. This is a really nice cover. Really nice colors by Matthew Hollingsworth. He's a great colorist all around, but I've never seen him do this kind of effect. It's really nice. I don't know what that is. Smudging the ink or something. But a sharp cover. Contents, and we have a Hellboy story, written and drawn by Mike Mignola. This is the Chain Coffin. This is a really good story. It ties into Hellboy's origin. So when Hellboy popped up in our Earth from hell, he's a little baby Hellboy, and during World War II, he was in this abandoned abbey or something, some kind of cathedral, which is just totally dilapidated and hasn't been used. He goes back there, and he basically sees this whole ghostly spectral tableau. So apparently there was a long time ago, there was this woman who had lived a horrible life. She was a Satanist. She just loved evil. She was just a good time girl who just had no morals, no ethics. She was just hell-bent for kicks. And now she's almost dying. And she doesn't want to be taken by the devil. So fortunately, her son, she had 2 kids. One's a priest and one's a nun. And she's like, guys, I want you to chain my coffin so the devil can't get me. If you can keep him at bay for 3 days, he'll have no hold on me, and I'll get to go to heaven. So the kids are very dutiful, and they agree to do this. And it's interesting, this comic, because Hellboy does nothing. He's just watching this all as an observer. But God, this is just like early Mike Mignola Hellboy. This art is just top-notch. I mean, seriously, and I think of all the cartoonists of all time, Mike Mignola's up there. And, maybe it's blasphemy. I think he's up there with Toth and Kirby and lots of guys. Milo Manera, Mobius. I love his style. So the demon shows up. And the weird thing is, it looks like he's looking right at Hellboy into the future. Because this, was a ghostly flashback. He basically, confronts the priest and the nun. He says, give me your body. And they're trying to, wave a cross at him and say kind of exorcist type things to get rid of him. And to no avail. This demon's way too powerful. He kills them both. Turns them into skeletons. Opens the chain coffin. And this one, the story gets actually really interesting. Because it's actually like you realize that there's almost like this fondness between the two. This is what he says, this demon. This is a demon from hell. He obviously has some fondness in his voice. He says, I remember a girl of 16 years who was wild and alive, who kissed me and hung about my neck. I carried her on my back and would have hung the stars in her hair. And she says, my Lord, can you make me that girl again? And he says, you are always that girl for me. She says, but you slaughtered my children. And he says, forget them, they're nothing. He kind of like says, I think it's metaphorically, says, you will have another child. Or you there's a child within you still waiting to be born. My power is inside of you. And then the demon looks right at Hellboy again and he says, my favorite son. So Hellboy's just like, wow, what the fuck? Look at this beautiful image of this horse with these ringlets on it. Oh, that's the demon's horse, sorry. And then he basically says, you're bound to me forever, and drags her down to hell. And Hellboy is just left there thinking. This is so weird. So this is all a letter back to Abe Sapien, his friend. And this is how the comic ends after all that. Back at Bureau headquarters, we see Abe Sapien's asleep. Abraham Sapien dreams of fish. It seemingly has nothing to do with the whole story. Just a weird way to end the comic. Just a fantastic comic all around. Now we have Eddie Campbell, A Tale of Horror. And this is about the snooter, this bug. Scary looking bug. This features Alec, which is basically Eddie Campbell. That's his alter ego. And, you know, now Alec, the early Alec stories, he was a teenager, a young man. Now it's Eddie Campbell has kids. So he's in his house with his kids. The snooter fly comes in. They're trying to kill it. And Eddie Campbell swats it with his hand and finally gets it out of the house. The next day, his cat brings it back in its mouth. He caught the snooter. But then Eddie Campbell looks at his hand where he slapped the snooter. And there's like this horrible, like infection, almost like eating his flesh. It's getting worse and worse. He goes to the doctor, and then we see it spreading around his hand. And then the last panel is him at the drawing board, drawing this very same comic. He's saying, must warn the world. And we see that the infection is creeping up to his face now. It's a very odd little story. Here we have Devil Chef. This is by Jack Pollock. This guy's really funny. Dark Horse put out one issue of the Devil Chef. It's almost like a good, I mean, it is pretty much like an indie alternative comic, very unlike a lot of Dark Horse's fare. And we see Devil Chef is in a kitchen. He's rubbing all the plates up against his butt and convinces all the other workers and the manager even to rub like the broccoli in their butt cheeks and the steak in his butt crack. And everyone's getting into it. This totally reminds me of something like Rick Altergott would think of. And the reason why he's doing it is because they're catering the annual psychics convention. And he basically wants to prove that they don't have any psychic powers because the women are like, this is delicious. Such positive energy in this place. It's just really fun style too, this cartooning. And speaking of which, this was the other like weird 90s comic Dark Horse put out. Fat Dog Mendoza by Scott Musgrove. This guy is full on wonkadelic. I really like this stuff. I have this comic and I'll definitely show it off one day. And it's just this really absurdist sense of humor. Fat Dog Mendoza, that's this guy. He's barely in this comic. But we see also starring Henry Kissinger, a.k.a. Captain Fancy Pants, super aquatic Afro-American underwater woman, and ear clops. And we see this newscaster is commenting on these two superheroes, nameless superheroes who are going to fight. And I like how he says, it doesn't really, your imagination will probably do better than just seeing another fight scene. Imagine fight scene here. Then we see Henry Kissinger, he's bedridden. Meanwhile, ear clops and that woman are making out. But Henry Kissinger, he's on a mission, but he's bedridden, so he has this bed with wheels. And a lot of these panels are just non sequiturs. Like it says, ear clops is dead. Henry Kissinger makes tracks, and salmon head home. And we see these, they look like sharks, but I guess they're supposed to be salmon, walking to their suburban homes. Ear clop starts feeling better, starts making out again. And it doesn't really make much sense at all. It's just fun, absurdist stuff. Almost reminds me of like Flaming Carrot. It's that odd, where he doesn't really care about telling some kind of, typical story. And here we see Fat Dog Mendoza. He just makes me laugh, this character. Now we have a bitchy bitch story by Roberta Gregory. It's called Dream On. Never liked her stuff. Just, this is a very typical bitchy bitch story. She's, bitchy bitch gets home, shitty day at work. She's trying to relax after work. She's having dreams about getting away from it all, having sex with lots of studly men. And she goes to work the next day. She hates all her coworkers. They kind of don't like her. They all make fun of her behind her back. So she just decides to call in sick, and it's a nice day at the beach. Okay, I probably would read more bitchy bitch, but I just never like them that much. I do kind of like what she's going for. You don't see this perspective often in comics. Just a normal kind of a late 20s, pre-middle-aged woman and their problems. This is really nice. Paul Pope writing and drawing this comic called Yes. And this is really not much of a story at all. Just an excuse for Paul Pope to draw some great visuals and slop a lot of ink on the page in a good fashion, a great fashion. So we just see this guy. He gets on his bike, or it's about to, and then all these bicyclists rush by, clogging the streets. So he gets on his bike, almost as if he's like, oh, I gotta get in there. And I don't know it's almost like the running of the bulls, but on bicycles. And just to look at this, the speed, I mean, like great manga. And then I guess on the other side of the street, there's all these other bicyclists coming the other way. And he sees this woman. And you can tell he's kind of smitten with her just by the loving close-ups of her. He smiles at her, she smiles back as they're passing. And then she rides on. So he's like, shit. So he gets off his bike. And he tries to run now, the opposite way to try and catch that girl. Look at this ink work. I was just turning into abstraction. I think it looks great, though. Just so much crazy ink. And he gives up and just ends up walking, somewhere else, I guess. Very nice. Number 3. Okay, we have a concrete cover by not by Paul Chadwick, by Jeff Darrow. This is a great cover. I love seeing Jeff Darrow draw him. And colors by Lynn Varley, which is very rare that Lynn Varley colors anyone else's work other than Frank Miller's at this time. Look how lush and beautiful these colors are. This blue. Hoy, that's gorgeous. And a great drawing, so all around good stuff. We have a concrete story, The Artistic Impulse. This actually ties into the very first concrete story that we looked at, a few weeks ago. When Concrete went to that little birthday party, the little kid's birthday party, this is the kid, all grown up now. It's been that long. He's a young man. And Concrete even asks about, hey, how'd your mom get that car down that I put up on the garage? If you watch the video, you'll get it. So the kid's there basically to ask for a favor. He says, I've seen you in Warehouse on some of the interviews with you on TV. Do you think we could borrow this? Because my band is shooting a rock video. It would really help me out. Concrete feels a little guilty about what he did to the mom's car, so he says, okay, you can do it. But the whole time he's very nervous because he has all these beautiful paintings on the wall. It's his home. And all these people rocking out. And he's just constantly worried that somebody's going to ruin his paintings. But then this beautiful woman comes up to him, mistakenly thinks Concrete painted these paintings. He's just a collector. It's almost like she's flirting with them. And she says, I would really love to pose for you sometime. And if you know anything about Concrete, he's a super nice guy, but he's fucking horny as hell. He can't have sex. He's got no dick. So he hasn't fucked in years, a long time. And he just loves beautiful women. All his paintings are nudes. So he basically goes along with it and says, oh, yeah, I'm glad you like my paintings. Show up here tomorrow. Or she offers, she says, I'll stop by tomorrow. I could pose for you. So then the next day he's agonizing. He's like, I can't draw a straight line. She's going to know I'm a fraud. I'm so embarrassed. So he calls up his friend, Stephen Davies, who he met on a film set. And who should it be? Stephen Davies? It's Dave Stevens. Totally looks like him. And they hatch a plan. Steven is going to come to his studio and hide behind a curtain. He's going to draw this woman. Concrete's going to pretend to be drawing her. And then when he says, oh, I've got to put the spray on the paper, to yada yada, some kind of treatment to the paper, I have to go back here. He's going to switch the art out. So he'll take Steven's drawing. And Concrete is just freaking out. He hasn't seen a nude lady in a long time. And so then Concrete almost gets caught. But, Steven gives a ride home to the model, to this girl. And then Steven calls him up and says it was some kind of total scam. This Inside Edition type show hired her to get close to Concrete and leave a camera, but turns out she left the cap on. So none of that was, Concrete's private life was aired. And the reason why Steven knows this is because she told him after they had sex. So he hooked up with that girl. Now we have Breakfast at Billy's, another Harvey Pekar, Joe Sacco collaboration. Harvey Pekar is driving through a kind of a rough part of Cleveland with his buddy. There's this weird old diner there named Billy's. And basically it's a neighborhood that is maybe just starting to get gentrified. There's a few nice houses in the area. And they have a discussion with this old lady about gentrification. So, it's just this quiet little moment. Now we have a page of strips by Ivan Brunetti and panels. He obviously censored himself for this Dark Horse appearance. These aren't nearly as nasty as back then as he usually was. Though they're still kind of nasty, pretty gory. But he cuts down on the nasty sex and stuff. Here we have Faggot Story by Dan Savage, pencils by Jason Waskey, inks by Bruce Patterson. I just said that word because I think I've done enough gay stuff in my life that maybe I could use it once. So don't get too mad at me. But this is Dan Savage, the columnist, the sex advice columnist. And he's recounting a true tale, kind of autobiography comic. I should mention Jason Waskey is the guy, you'd never know it from this art. He's the guy who drew that Falls the Gotham Rain comic. That really good comic we looked at about a year ago. The kind of neo-noir comic. So different. I don't like this nearly as much. But it's not bad, it's nice little cartoony, whatever. So basically Dan Savage is recounting how in an airport, some guy didn't know he was gay. So he said something, he said the F word, a nasty thing, thinking he'd say, yeah, I know what you're talking about. But Dan Savage paused for a second and then said, I'm one, I'm gay. And he has this whole kind of a doubt in his brain where he realizes that even though he's pretty fully out of the closet, he, holds his boyfriend's hand everywhere they go, but he realizes that he still has to hesitate. He's still a little scared because he knows that some people might punch him or something just for being gay. And so it's just about him and his thoughts, thinking about this dilemma. But then he obviously comes to a conclusion because when he gets back from the bathroom in the airplane, he just totally makes out with his boyfriend. But we see that it's not going to make it go away. This guy behind them is just hatefully looking on at them. Next, we have Whistle and Quinny by Megan Kelso. I really don't like Megan Kelso at this point. I think she got a lot better. But this is whatever. It's so we see this kind of street girl. She's just selling some crap on the street. She's homeless. And then we meet Queenie, who owns this laundromat. And she sees Whistle, that's the girl's name, sees her dumpster diving. And so the next day she comes in and Queenie gives her $1. She says, here, buy yourself something to eat. But then the next day, Whistle goes to her laundromat that Queenie owns, remember? And she does this like scam to rip off the machine. I don't know, I've never seen this before. It's some kind of thing where you whip it out the quarters after it's started the machine. And Queenie catches her and says, you little shit. I totally gave you money and you're trying to rip me off now? And the next day, Whistle leaves a note. It says, Dear Queenie, I'm really sorry. I just thought I was ripping off the machine. I didn't realize I was ripping off a person. You in particular. Not much. Number 4. Nice Dave Gibbons cover here featuring Martha Washington. So we get a nice little Martha Washington story written by Frank Miller and drawn by Dave Gibbons. Attack of the Flesh-Eating Monsters. Kind of a weird one. So we see it starts in medias res. We don't know how this happened, but Martha and a fellow astronaut are in space. I think their ship blew up or something. They're stranded. They're running out of oxygen. And then all of a sudden, these spaceships show up with these tendrils grab them. So they're like, this is better than just dying of lack of oxygen. Let's see what happens. And then these crazy-looking aliens, almost goofy-looking aliens. And the way they're talking is like from a bad B movie. And they're telling Martha how they're going to, they've come across the galaxy to devour every human being. They're just going to eat everyone. And then I like this. Martha just interrupts him and says, this is the corniest load of crap I ever heard. And she punches one of him in the stomach. His helmet falls off. And it turns out it's a human being. All these guys are men, humans, masquerading as these crazy Martians. And when Martha contacts her, central command that she works for, they're actually like, actually this is our doing. There may come a time when the illusion of a shared threat from outer space will be needed to unify planet Earth, which is The Watchmen, which Dave Gibbons drew. That's basically the main plot. So once again, Martha Washington realizes that she works for shitty people. That's the theme of Martha Washington. All those comics. She's this very diligent, loyal soldier and whatever she does. And she can't trust all of her commanders, Next, we have Ellen Forney illustrating a story recounted to her by a friend named Julie Battersby. The night Tom Waits poured me a bourbon on the rocks. And that's exactly what we'll see. Also not a big fan of this art. It's pretty like fanzine-y. So she tells Ellen the story. She somehow got backstage at a Tom Waits show. And she didn't know what to say to Tom Waits. He tried to make small talk. He said, what do you do, Julie? And she said, I fight nuclear power. Because I guess she was in some no nukes groups. And Tom Waits is just like, well, you could use a drink. And he pours her bourbon. Then these kind of groupie girls come in. The whole night they're just chatting, having a good time. And she's just petrified with, embarrassment from what she said earlier. So just a little story. Oh, this is a beautiful one page. The Symphony of Daily Nourishment by Rick Geary. This one's so weird. It's, let's load up our trays while we can. The rancid meats and entrails of all nations. Undistinguished vegetables with tumors and eruptions. Fat melons with gaping, oozing wounds. Roots and stalks from some unknown garden. If the planet is nothing but a big wet mouth, then it comes here for lunch. One of the weirder Rick Geary ones, but I love his art so much. Even though some of these are just he's drawing tumors. His perfect lettering. I love that man. We have another Harvey Pekar, Joe Sacco collaboration. Oh my goodness. Just a little one-pager once again. Kind of skint. And now we have Chris Warner doing a Black Cross comic. I don't think there have been many of these in years. This might be the first one in years and maybe the last Black Cross story ever. Let me get the date on this just to make sure. It is 1995. That's when these came out. So, Black Cross takes place in this post-apocalyptic type world. There's still some, bars, some businesses. So Black Cross is in a bar playing poker with these kind of almost like survivalist type dudes. And one of the guys is just kind of this obnoxious dude, kind of a big baby. And he's really getting pissed off that Black Cross keeps winning. It seems like his friends are taunting him and just making fun of him. And so he's getting madder and madder. It's interesting how you can see Chris Warner's already changed from the late 80s. The last Black Cross story we saw, using a lot more shadow and heavy inks rather than really fine pen work. I gotta say, don't like it as much. It's still pretty nice, but this isn't that special to me. It's definitely okay. I'd rather look at this than a lot of the mainstream stuff at the time. But I really miss that fine line business he used to have. It was almost like Terry Austin inking him all the time. So Black Cross keeps winning. This guy keeps getting angrier. So it's kind of an interesting Black Cross. There's no violence. There's a bunch of guys playing poker. And a bunch of guys making fun of this one guy. So finally, this guy's had enough. The whole time they've been warning him. They're like, settle down. This guy looks pretty fucking tough. They can just smell the danger on Black Cross. But this guy won't listen. He gets up. Black Cross has to put a gun in his face. And he basically says, you ought to shut up and play the game. This is nice here. Brian Sendelbach. I love this guy. He's funny as hell. This is called Smell of Steve Incorporated presents Mean Mr. Applehead in Violence is Golden. Just an insanely crazy, dumb strip. We see Applehead, knife in one hand, gun in the other. He keeps walking by these signs. No killing zone. Please do not kill. Remember, no killing. But all he wants to do is kill people. He just keeps saying, God, I can't wait to kill the next person I see. And that's exactly what he does. The way he draws these little guys just cracks me up. He stabs this guy in the eye, shoots the next person, slices off someone's head. He just goes on this massacre. And he goes to a convenience store to get a drink, kills the owner, of course, kills this little kid reading comics. And then he grabs the comic and starts reading it. It's called Kill Comics. He says, the great thing about this comic is that it depicts acts of violence in a fun-loving, sensationalistic manner, while at the same time having the character's dialogue present that self-same violence as being inherently wrong. He's interrupted while he kills another guy. This is just such a great humor, cartooning style. It's perfect. So he's basically commenting on these comics. It's basically saying how it's like having your cake and eating it too. Showing violence, but then saying like, oh, look, I'm trying to show you how bad violence is. Which is exactly what this comic is doing. I like this when he finally stops killing people. It says, end, no killing zone. And then just as a, fourth dimensional thing or metafictional thing, at the end it says, note, remember kids, violence is a wrong thing. Don't do it. The editors. Next we have a young Ed Brubaker. This is back before, Ed Brubaker was a superhero, Marvel DC superstar, when he was pretty much just doing autobio comics. But this is drawn by Pat McEwen, one of my favorite cartoonists. And this is also back before Pat McEwen, when he was pretty straight, his art style. After this, he got very cartoony, way more interesting, too. I assume this is supposed to be Ed Brubaker. Maybe it's not, but it is just kind of reads like an autobio story. Let's call this guy Ed, the blonde guy. And he's just basically talking about his problems with women. This could be a comic in low life, except it wouldn't look this good. It wouldn't be drawn as well. He goes to this bookstore. His buddy's like, hey, that clerk you like, that you want to have a crush on, she's working. Go over there. And he walks over. He can't do it. Can't pull the trigger. Chicken's out. I like this panel here where at first you're just like, wow, why are these weird women, like weirdly just women? And it's like all of his fantasy women. Like we even see Morticia from the Addams Family, sexy lady cop, crazy leather dominatrix or something. So I think that's in his imagination. Because he's girl crazy. He hasn't been laid in a long time. He also mentions that he had a girlfriend who kind of broke his heart. So he goes home and he looks at the picture of him and his ex when they were happy. And he just thinks to himself, Jesus, Emily, so beautiful. You were so beautiful. Where did I go wrong? Such a shitty place to be. I think we've all been there. And now we have number 5, the last one. We have a Mike Allred cover featuring Madman and Rusty the Boy Robot. And I can't remember who this is. I think that's a character from Madman, that robot. Pretty zany, fun cover. Oh, so now we have a Monkey Man and O'Brien adventure by Arthur Adams. I Was the Alien. I really like Arthur Adams' style. So crisp. Kind of like reminds me of that early Chris Warner art, Terry Austin, all those guys. They using the rapidograph instead of brushes. I kind of like it. So this UFO comes to Oakland, and it goes into the cemetery. All of the police and the army are all called in, but they also call in Monkey Man and O'Brien. Because they, whenever there's a big job to do, they call them in. If you guys never read this comic, O'Brien is a 7-foot tall, super strong adventurer, and her companion is Monkey Man, also known as Axwell Tiberius, and he's the brains of the outfit. Even though he's pretty damn strong, but he doesn't like to fight. He likes to, he thinks. So it's kind of this funny, odd couple. Like he's way bigger than her, maybe stronger than her. But she does all the fighting. So they're investigating with these cops. And I guess there's some kind of creature. Not a kaiju, not that big. But some nasty creature they're kind of looking for because they found these tracks. And the monster reveals itself. Kind of like this giant lobster or something. He knocks out Monkey Man. And then this guy, one of the cops, he picks up an alien gun that the UFOs left. Sorry, the aliens left. And shoots the monster. And it disappears. And Monkey Man's pissed. He's like, we should have tried to communicate with it. Because he's a scientist, And then we realize that that monster possessed one of the cemetery workers. So he's got this scary look on his face. And it looks like another monster's in this UFO. And they head off back to their planet. So I don't know if this continues anywhere. It does say the end with a question mark. This is a really nice, I really like this story. It's Mario Hernandez, Los Malcriados, which means the brats. We see all these old people, and they're all like people from a freak show. A giant, tiny lady, woman with no arms, a guy with lobster hands. And they're at the funeral of the tattooed man. It sounds like they haven't seen each other in years. I gotta say, I really like this Mario art in this. Mario is probably, I think nobody will argue with me, he's the least talented artistically of the Hernandez brothers. But he's a really good writer. He just doesn't have the chops of, definitely not the chops of Jaime. And not Gilbert either. He's just got this kind of sloppy style. But I think it works really good, especially in the story. So they all go to a bar to toast their friend, and they start reminiscing about their days in the circus. The carnival. The carnival was owned by this guy who called himself the captain. And I guess he burnt down the carnival for the insurance money. He was just a right bastard, this guy. And then at this, who should show up but this old circus friend named Fantine. So now we flash back to their days in the carnival when they're all young. And I guess Fantine was kind of the captain's mistress. And he impregnated her and then basically like tossed her out. But then when she was about to give birth, he went to get her, kind of dragged her out of her trailer. So all her friends, the circus people, are like, we're going to the captain's right now and we're getting her back. They confront the captain. He's drunk and just a total asshole. He just throws Fantine to them. She's bleeding. I guess the pregnancy didn't go well. She's not, kind of injured. He's just this heartless bastard. And then when he closes the door and he talks to like his manager or something. And he says, Captain, now is the time to torch the place. I can make it look like so it was an accident and the cops will question us. Look how crazy that art is there. It's pretty crude. And he says, yeah, why not? Let's do it. And then we see the baby, Fantine's baby. The doctor saved it and put it in this jar, pickled. So the friends are trying to take care of Fantine. It looks like she's going to die. They're really worried about her. And then all of a sudden, fire breaks out. The roustabouts are all on the captain's side. They're all running around, killing any freak they find. It's horrible. And they're all trying to escape the fire and trying to rescue their friends. And they've got to lug Fantine around, who's deathly injured. And so now we come back to the present. And this is amazing. They're laughing about it. And Fantine even says, oh, it's good that we can laugh now. And it's like that was completely horrible what they went through. Like, you just think there would be, you couldn't even talk about that and laugh, but they do. And then Fantine says, I think I'm ready now to see it. And they're like, yeah, come on in. We've kept it, protected it all these years. And it's Fantine's baby. She's never seen it in this jar. And this panel is so heartbreaking. She's just head down, just touching the jar, just crying. And then she gets back into her limousine. And this is very weird. She says, actually, I'm heading to the prison. The captain is being released today. Or on the 9th. We'll be there waiting for him. Now, I don't know if this means that Fantine ended up with the captain after all that horrible abuse he put her through. Or if she's maybe going to get revenge on him as soon as he gets out of prison. I kind of have a feeling the first option's true. Because that's just the kind of, interesting character shit Mary Hernandez would put in a story where, yeah, she just, somehow the captain and her ended up together. Or she still loved him. Because I think he went to jail eventually for the burning the carnival. Next we have Frankenstein P.I. in Butcher's Night Out. This is by Rich Hedden, half of the Roach Mill team. And Mike McPhillips inks it and letters it. This is pretty sharp art. I like this a lot. I almost see some Dave Stevens in here. And this guy Butcher is just a horrible convict, an evil man. And he escapes prison. He takes along this young kid. And I guess part of the escape plan is to go through this sewer pipe and come out in this river and swim their way to safety. And Butcher's narrating the whole thing with these captions. And he says, I'm a lousy swimmer. That's why I brought the kid. And as soon as they get to safety, Butcher picks up a rock and bashes the kid's head in. This is some really, really nice stuff. And then he runs to the woods. He finds a car. He gets to the road, and he sees a guy, the owner of the car, peeing on the side of the road. So he takes out his gun. Butcher got a gun from one of the guards and shoots him like 8 times in the back. And he says, so long, sucker, and he gets in the car, but we realize the guy he shot is Frankenstein P.I. Those bullets didn't stop him at all. And so Frankenstein P.I. lifts up the back of the car and then starts shaking the car around, bashing Butcher inside of it. And then he opens the door and grabs Butcher. And Butcher's pleading. He's like, I'm sorry, give me a break. And Frankenstein PI says, sure, I'll give you a break. They found him the next morning. And this is what he looked like. It looks like every bone in his body is broken. And then the postscript says, Butcher Barnes went on to become a model prisoner, taking up Bible study and singing soprano for the prison choir. So I don't know if that's implying that he also ripped his dick off. That's why he's singing soprano. I don't know. Now we have more Milk and Cheese. This one's Alcoholics Unanimous. Milk and Cheese wake up one day and they're just got the shakes. And they're just talking for like 4 panels about how much they need booze and big drinks and what they're going to drink as soon as they get to the bar. Maybe 6 panels. It's just them getting all psyched up to get drunk again. So they go to the bar and they just go nuts. They even have an IV drip of gin. And, of course, once they drink enough, they get all zany, they get all wacky, and they start killing people again and hurting people. We're drunks with power. We like ours with a twist, as they twist this guy's neck and kill him. Milk, how do you take your martini? By force. And he punches this guy. Oh, man, that Evan Dorgan. He's a clever lad. I'm sure some of you are like, oh, that's a terrible joke, but I thought that was pretty good. And now this is really interesting. We have Pan-Fried Girl. This is a collaboration between Paul Pope and Jeff Smith of Bone fame. Very odd. It kind of looks just like Paul Pope to me, though, for the most part. Like this logo, that's totally Paul Pope. This weird little dog creature. And this is weird. So Pan-Fried Girl is this character. Her little companion, this it's got a weird name, the Wolf Dog or something. And this kind of robotic guy, he's almost like Clockwork, a steampunk looking guy. He's from the tax office and he's following her around, auditing her. Auditing her. They stopped at camp. I guess this guy only eats things out of cans. Nothing fresh, so he won't eat the meal she offers him. She's cooking up pan fry, of course. That's what she's known for. So her dog is named Bimba. And Bimba loves Pan-Fried Girl. He can talk. He hates the tax guy. So Pan-Fried Girl shows this tax agent how to make a recipe. And we actually see the recipe here for Braid Birthday Pan Fry. Kind of weird. You can tell this comic that I think Paul Pope and Jeff Smith were just hanging out and we're like, let's just make a comic and we'll make a silly comic. You totally get this palpable sense that they were having fun making this. They go by this empty cistern. They see one of those dog people, a Wugga dog, dead at the bottom. And her Wugga dog says, it's a trap, Bimba. Bimba says, it's a trap. Don't go down there. And don't feed it because you'll just prolong its agony. But the tax robot throws down a can of food. I really like that panel, that point of view. So they end up in a city, the Ancient Rock City it's called, just to buy ingredients for her next pan fry. The residents of Rock City, they kind of look like these little simians. I love these. They look crazy. Almost like they have Zardoz heads, but they're monkeys. And they attack our heroes. And Bimba goes crazy. And I guess when Bimba gets a taste of blood, he gets kind of feral and loses it. So they get separated. Pan-Fried Girl uses this weapon, kills one of the denizens of the city. They all go running in fear. When she goes back to find Bimba and the tax collector, Bimba has killed him. He's gone savage. He's just turned into a wild animal. This is so weird. This is another sense of how playful they're being with this comic. Second to last page, they just started a little comic on the bottom called Dwad. And we just see this cute character flipping a coin. Now Pan-Fried Girl says, bad ba. Wait, is that how you say his name? Bimba. Bad. And he says, sorry, Pan-Fried Girl, I love you. And I like this caption. as she hugs him, it says, although she does not show it, Pan-Fried Girl realizes Bimba is after all a wild animal, and someday she will have to kill him in self-defense. So this, I want to see more of this character. I have a feeling we never will. This was just a lark of these two. And then we see an ad for Pan-Fried Girl's frozen meals available in most markets and carryouts. And then here's the continuation of that little comic. And it's very slight, just a kind of cute little cartooning going on. And that's it for Dark Horse Presents, number 100, 1 through 5. Hope you guys like looking at these. I thought this was I guess this, you could consider this one issue that's just split up into 5. Just all around, a lot of great stuff in here. Highly recommended. Everything after 100 for the next 20, 30 issues. There's going to be a lot of good stuff. So next time I'll probably look at 101, maybe through 103. I'll look at 3 issues at a time. That's my plan so far. It won't be next video, but it'll be in like 5 or so. Hope you guys enjoyed looking at these, and I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.